everyone, this is Heather. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I wanted to share with you the new look for the classic Stampin' Pad ink pads from Stampin' Up. In the new 2018 catalog, they redesigned their ink pads, and I wanted to share some of the features with you and talk a little bit about the ink pads. So for the classic Stampin' Pad, they come in different color assortments. So each year, Stampin' Up comes out with new in colors, which are kind of popular and trendy colors. And so there's 5 new in colors for this year, and then they carried over the 5 from the previous year. So there's 10 in colors. There's also a neutrals assortment, which comes also in a set of 10. Brights assortment, also a set of 10. Subtles assortment, also a set of 10, and regals, also a set of 10. They have also introduced some brand new colors to the color line and retired some of the others. So there is a total of 16 new colors in the Stampin' Pads, and there is also a assortment of just the new colors. So if you already have all of the previous colors, you can buy just that assortment of the 16 new colors. This classic Stampin' Pads are a dye-based ink, so that means that they dry very quickly. They're also acid-free, so they're safe for your scrapbooking. The new design, I'm going to push these back a little bit. The new design is a lot slimmer and thinner than the previous design, and they're also stackable. So I have got the Subtle collection here, and I wanted to show you how they come. They are wrapped in plastic, so you just want to remove the plastic. And I usually just take a pair of scissors and just kind of carefully cut the plastic and peel the plastic away. And then one of the nice features is on the back there are stickers. So the top of the pad has the color and the name on it, but if you store your ink pads facing forward or on their sides, it's nice to have an additional label to place on the edge of your ink pad. So they come on the back, and they're in different languages. So you just peel the sticker off, and I store mine front facing forward, so I'm going to place it on the front of my ink pad. So that's really handy, and that way you can place the sticker wherever you would like that to be. So if you store yours on the side like this, you could place all your labels on the side as well. So that's a nice feature, so don't forget that that is back there. So let's take a closer look at the ink pad itself. Like I said, they are slimmer, and on the bottom is a little notch, and on the top is a little groove, so that you can kind of fit those in together and they will stack up very nicely. With this design and the slimmer look, they take up a lot less space. So I've grabbed 3 of the older style of ink pads, and you can see that, hopefully you can see, that 3 of the old style is as tall as 4 of the new. So you get a lot more space. If I can tip these up a little bit, you get a lot more storage space with this new design. So let me show you how these open. And one thing I will mention, when you first get your ink pad, they are going to be a little tight. And once you've used it several times, they will loosen up over time. So don't freak out when you first open up your pad and they feel like they're very tight, because they are going to loosen up once you've used them a few times. And I know that's definitely true. I ended up getting the Granny Apple Green when it first came out, and now that I've used it quite a few times, it's loosened up quite a bit. So there's a groove here in the front, and you want to place one thumb on one side and one on the other. Now I'm a lefty, so I may do this a little differently than you do. So you just want to put your fingers there and pull that apart and open it up flat, and then slide the ink pad down the channel. And this is the part that's a little tight when you first get it. And then you're just going to push it all the way, and it is ready to use. So the reason that these have this flip top lid is so that your ink pad, when it's stored like this, the pad is upside down so that all of the ink goes to the top of the pad, so that when you're ready to use it, it stays nice and juicy. Where if it was stored like this, the ink can kind of settle to the bottom. So this makes it so that your ink pads stay really nice and juicy. But if you have used an ink pad a lot and you feel like that you are getting ready to run out of ink, if your ink pad's getting a little dry, there are refills available for all of the different colors. So this is what the pad looks like when it's open and you're going to use it. And when you're done, there's a groove set in here, and you're just gonna kind of hold it on the sides, put your thumb back in that groove, and pull it back out. Lift it up, push it back down, and make sure you hear that snap and that the top and front of the lid is completely closed. So as you can see, this is a new ink pad. I haven't used it but just a few times, so it's still a little tight, but my Granny Apple Green ink pad is a whole lot looser, and I can slide it a little bit better. So the more you use these, the looser that they will get. So like I said, don't panic if you feel like it's really tight, because that is going to loosen up. So another quick thing that I wanted to mention about the Classic Stampin' ink pads is that they match pretty much everything else in the line that Stampin' Up! Has. So there's cardstocks that match all the ink colors, there's markers, then also design series papers, embellishments. Stampin' Up! Does a fantastic job of color coordinating everything. So it takes the headache out of choosing, okay, do I have the, is this ink pad color going to match this pattern paper, and is that going to match my cardstock? They all will go together. So you can get color assortments like this, like if you like the settle, you can get the ink pads, the markers, and the cardstock that all match, and everything's going to go together and coordinate really well. Or you can buy them individually as well. If you like just one color from a color assortment, you don't have to buy just the assortment. You can buy one ink pad at a time. So I thought I'd show you real quick what just some of the 16 new colors are for the ink pads. So there is Granny Apple Green, Balmy Blue, and one that I'm partial to, of course, because of the name, Highland Heather, which is a really pretty purple. Then there's Petal Pink, which is a really subtle pink color, almost like a little bit of a peachy tone to it too. And then also another really pretty pale green color, and this is Soft Seafoam. So this is just a few of the 16 new colors that I happened to get. I thought you'd like to take a look at some of the new colors. So I hope you've enjoyed taking a look at some of the new features on the newly redesigned Classic Stampin' Pad from Stampin' Up! I also wanted to do a quick card making tutorial for you and show you a fun way to use your ink pads for a background. So I'm a little bit late for Christmas in July, but it's never too early to start working on your holiday cards. So I'm going to show you how to use some of the ink pads for the background, and we're going to make this really pretty Joy to the World card with Santa flying over the houses. So the ink pads that I'm going to be using for this card are Granny Apple Green, Balmy Blue, Pool Party, and Mint Macaroon. And the stamp set that I'm using is Hearts Come Home And this was released last year in the holiday catalog, and it has been carried over to the new catalog, so it is still available. And it has some great houses, trees, Santa, words, and moon, so you can make a really fun scene. So to make our card, I've got a piece of mint macaroon cardstock that I've cut, scored, and folded in half for the card base. And then I have got a piece of watercolor paper that I've cut to 4 by 5 1/4. And then another piece of just white cardstock, and it just needs to be the same width as your watercolor paper, so it just needs to be 5 1/4 wide. So I am working on a craft sheet, but you could use any slick surface like a large piece of acetate or a glass craft mat, whatever you've got. And I'm taking my ink pad, I'm starting off with the lightest color. This is Pool Party, and I'm just touching it down onto my craft mat. I'm going to do the same thing with mint macaroon, or macaron, I'm not sure if I say that correctly or not. And I'm just going to do that once, and then also with the balmy blue. So if you start off from lightest to darkest, you have less likelihood of contaminating your ink pads with the different colors. So I usually just like to start from light to dark. So now I'm just taking a spray bottle that just has plain water in it, and I'm going to give that some good mists. I'm going to take my watercolor paper and I'm just going to touch it down on those colors and kind of smush it around. And you can see I get this cool kind of marble effect. And your fingers will probably get a little messy. If that bothers you, you can put on, you know, gloves, like plastic gloves or something, but I don't really mind my my fingers getting too messy. I want to leave just a little bit of white showing on that. And so you can see I've got this nice mixture of all three colors where they've sort of, you know, you can see the individual color, but you can also see where they've blended together. If you want to add a little bit more water, you can. So just kind of play with it until you're happy with your results. And you've got that nice, pretty kind of marbleized background. And then you can either just let this air dry, or you could hit it for a little while with your embossing tool and just dry it off. And so when you're done, you just want to take a paper towel and wipe that clean. But remember that there's a lot of ink on there, so you could do multiples of this. So have plenty of pieces of watercolor paper ready, and you could just continue to use it until you've used up all of your ink. So I have dried my watercolor paper. I'm going to take my piece of white cardstock, and I just want to make kind of a little snowy hill. So I'm just placing the cardstock between my thumb and forefinger, and I'm just going to slowly tear that cardstock towards me. And again, I am a lefty, so you might tear yours a little bit differently. So just until you've got a nice hill. So now I'm just going to put some tape runner on the back and adhere that to the bottom of my watercolor paper. So I've got like a little snowy hill, and now I'm ready to start doing some stamping. So I'm going to be using the balmy blue, and I'm going to stamp the Joy to the World words across the card, sort of at an angle on the left-hand side. So I've got my words stamped. And now I want to take one of the tiny stars from the set and just kind of add a little scattering of stars around. Just random. And another one over there. So I've just got some stars scattered around. And now I want to add my Santa, also with the same balmy blue color. So now I have Santa flying through the sky. And now I'm going to grab the Granny Apple Green ink pad, and I want to add just a couple of trees on my hillside. So just above or I've torn that cardstock, and if it goes over a little bit, that's okay. Just got a few trees added there. And now to save time, I've gone ahead and stamped out a couple of houses. So I used Balmy Blue and Mint Macaroon for 2 of the houses, just stamped them on the same white cardstock and cut them out. And I'm just going to add some foam tape to the back and adhere those to my scene. So I'm just going to place those on my hill. And now I'm ready to adhere this to the front of my cardstock. And because the watercolor paper might be a little warped from the water that we've added to it, make sure that you add a good amount of tape runner to that so that it will stay. So I'm just going to place that in the center of my card base. And there's my finished card. So that is just a really fun, easy background technique that you can do with your ink pads. Just grab a few colors that go together and mix and mush them together. Each time that you do it, it'll look totally different, but it's really fun. A little bit messy, you might get some ink on your fingers, but it's a really cool technique. So I hope that you've enjoyed taking a look at some of the new colors and of the new design for the Stampin' Up! Ink pads. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Heather, and I hope you have a great day. Bye!